Hi guys, it's April. I don't know if you know this about me or not, but I'm kind of in love with Peter Pan. Maybe just a little bit. Today I have a review for you over Neverland by Shari Arnold, and I have lots of things that I'm gonna try and condense into a understandable format for all of you. Like always, I will do this review with the unspoiler review first to give you a brief synopsis and a brief overview of what I thought of this book, and then afterwards I will go into a more spoiled-filled blab fest of things that I just need to get off my chest. I received this beautiful copy of Neverland for an honest review, and I'm gonna give you that. This story is centered around Olivia, or Livy, whose family has just experienced the loss of her younger sister Jenna to leukemia. Livy still goes to the children's hospital every day to hang out with the children and to read and just to be there for them. It's her way of keeping hold of her sister and keeping the memory of her alive. During one of these visits, she sees a boy in the hallway, and then the story starts. This boy is Meyer, and he is about to take her on an adventure that she wasn't really expecting. Now, this is a Peter Pan reimagining. Blanket statement, it says it everywhere, I mean Neverland, which is why I was really excited to receive this copy. I am all for reading all kinds of Peter Pan reimaginings, retellings, anything. But with that being said, I am a die-hard Peter Pan fan, so if you don't get the essence of it right, you go on my list. I have a list. This book does it right. The writing, the characters, the story takes that essence of Peter Pan and it crams it all into this beautiful story about dealing with grief and moving on and what it means to be human and alive. And I fell in love. I really did. It takes a lot for me to really enjoy a retelling like this. It's got to get all the little nuances correct. It's got to get the characters just right. It's got to have those little pieces of the original story that keeps me hooked, and guys, it did. It did. I marked this sucker up like nobody's business. There was a point where I accidentally left this copy at work, and because I couldn't let it go, I ended up buying the ebook. That is an endorsement of how much I truly enjoyed this story. Shari Arnold did a very good job of taking some very well-loved characters and reinterpreting them in a way that made sense and put them in our world. I went into this story expecting one thing, different than what I was expecting. I was going in expecting the story that went this way, and then as I started reading, I'm like, but she could totally go this direction. And it did, and it was beautiful, and it was wonderful, and I enjoyed it so very much. Livy as a character is very real. She's dealing with the grief and the loss of her sister, and you can feel that as you're going through the story. She has these little quirks and these little tics that plays exactly how grief can play out, and then you see different forms of grief in her parents. There are also so many lines in this book that just hit me and I just grabbed onto. I was tweeting most of the time I was reading this book, so there is a lot of tweets coming from this book. It takes this magic and the essence of Peter Pan about death and life and living and growing up, and it plays it out in a way I really truly enjoyed. There's Meyer, who is that quirky innocent. There is that scary but alluring Captain Hook character in here as well. And then there's just the story of the never and the always. And I really, I can't say enough about this book, guys. If you really enjoy the magic and the imagination of Peter Pan and you are drawn to stories about dealing with grief and loss, pick up this book. Please pick up this book. I would love to talk to you about this book. Highly recommend this book. I really, 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 really do, guys. I am glad I got my hands on a copy of this, and it has become one of my favorites for this year. And it just makes me happy. This would be the point to stop, go read the book, and come back. And we can say words to each other. This book, the Peter Pan references the feel of the whole Peter Pan story that has always drawn me to begin with, which is why I love it so much. Meyer, as the replacement Peter Pan, works extremely well because he's got this innocent, know-it-all, egotistical, but sweet personality that I always associate with Peter. And then you have James, who is the replacement Hook. There's always a point in the Peter Pan story where you're just drawn to Hook. There's something magnanimous about Hook, and James has that same kind of quality. He feels very refined and attractive, yet scary and nerve-wracking all at the same time, which is that character in a nutshell. And how you play out the story where you're growing up and you're living and you're learning, and maybe this scary person isn't necessarily evil. It's just a necessity and part of growing up and part of moving on and a part of learning, which you see in the original Peter Pan a little bit as well. Part of me was a little disappointed on how the book ended because there's something bittersweet but never ending about how the original Peter Pan ends, where he's never going to grow up. He is not necessarily going to change or remember or regret. He just is. But of course, in this version, you get Meyer, who makes the decision that maybe living and growing and becoming is something that it's a journey. It's an adventure he decides he wants to take, which makes for a happy ending-esque for Livy, but it kind of breaks the whole feel of what I have for Peter Pan. I understand why it happened and why most people are going to enjoy that kind of ending, unlike me, who I guess I am just a glutton for, that first love, that first attraction, but something that's never gonna stay and never gonna last. You learn from it and you move on, even if that memory doesn't. I also enjoy how Shari Arnold took the essence of Peter Pan, which is and was based off of death and regret and childhood and innocence, and turned it into this story right here. I can't say enough words about how I am so happy she stuck with that essence and filled out these pages with those kinds of words and that kind of growth. I could say more. I probably will have more words that I want to say after I wrap up this video, but I think I'm going to start the conversation there. So leave comments down below. I'd love to hear your input, and I heart your beautiful faces. Bye.